Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Extremely excited because I'm joined here with Norman Farrar, aka the Beard Guy, and today we're going to be discussing press releases for Amazon product launch. This is a topic that I'm personally interested in, and I know a lot of people in our Facebook group were also super interested, so really excited. So I already know Norman a little bit, but Norm, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about the man behind the beard with the audience today.
The man behind the beard. I don't know. Geez, a shell of a man. Yeah. So again, my name is Norm Farrar. I've been in e-com for quite some time, mostly on the corporate identity and branding side. Been in promo marketing for a while. Got involved with sourcing and specialty packaging. But where I really learned and got my hands into things is with my family's company. My dad was an entrepreneur, and he had manufacturing, all different types of manufacturing in Canada and US. But we got involved, and my brother, over in Taiwan, and we opened up a couple of factories that we had over there. And it really got me going through the whole manufacturing process, building up that bill of material, understanding finances a bit better. And then after that, I got into Tech Hub, anything. At the end of the day, back in 2013, Amazon came into view for me, and it was a perfect storm. Everything kind of came together. During that time, by the way, we opened up another factory in China. So that the other one was sold. We have this other factory. And then I got into Amazon and all aspects of Amazon. I have a few companies. It's all vertically integrated. So everything to do from the sourcing side right on through to content to managed services.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's something that I already knew, and that's why I'm so excited to have you on. So press releases.
Yes.
All right. An interesting topic. And for me personally, don't know a whole lot about it. So what exactly is a press release, or what does that kind of look like, maybe more specifically for kind of a new e-commerce entrepreneur who's maybe launching their first product on Amazon, or for kind of existing brands that maybe already have kind of a product line, on multiple sales channels, they're in the process of building their brand. Yeah, kind of like product specific press release, if that makes sense. And I don't even know if that does make sense.
Yeah, and even before you get into that part, you have to do one other step, I think. So first of all, a lot of people contact us and say, "Oh, I'm having an event. Can you publish a press release?" Or, "I'm having an event. Can you handle it?" Well, back in the day, we couldn't. Now we have a public relations division, and we opened that because of that. Press releases are not public relations. They just happen to start with PR. They get confused. So a public relations event or an earned media, something in earned media, is that you're going out, you're getting exposure in a magazine, or you're having an event. Now you need a way to distribute that information. How do you do that? You go to a press release company, or you have somebody write a press release and you have it distributed. So even when you get to that point of getting and writing a press release, so that could be on an announcement of something, it could be a benefit, it could be a feature, it could be almost anything, but it's got to be newsworthy. When you write it, that's part one. So writing a press release and writing it unlike a blog, that's the trick, part one. Part two is finding somebody that will distribute the press release. So there's lots of very inexpensive ways of distributing a press release. And number one, you can go to a very inexpensive distributor that's going to do it, and you'll get what you pay for. You'll get a whole bunch of junk links, and you'll be published in Small Town USA and all these places you've never heard of. You can go to one that you pay for, and you either get more volume or you get better content distribution. I can get into that later. But the other way of distributing is doing it yourself. So there are ways of going out, reaching out to followers, reaching out to journalists, and just getting them to distribute it through their network. So there's really three different ways of looking at it. I mean, the best way, the probably time-wise, the cheapest way at the end of the day would go to a well-established distribution company that can syndicate the press release for you. So that's the first thing. There, you've got public relations, press releases, and then distribution.
Gotcha. Okay. No, that makes sense. And then I know you mentioned, I mean, it's kind of obvious, and it's something that I think at least a lot of people that I've spoken with kind of overlook, but everyone's focused on kind of, some form of advertising or traffic and all of that. But like you mentioned, you need something noteworthy to begin with. So kind of in your experience, what are some maybe creative ways that maybe like Amazon brands or kind of these newer sellers that maybe Amazon's kind of their first sales channel that they're utilizing have kind of utilized this process, if that makes sense?
Sure. And what I can do is because a lot of people stay away from press releases because they've said, oh, I've launched my Amazon product. I've launched a website. I'm not going to do it again. Or they try to do it again and again and again. They just don't get published. But a lot of people just run out of content. They don't know how to do it. So if you like, I've got this PDF I can provide to your listeners called 108 Brilliant Press Release Ideas. So that'll start to stir up, some of the creative juices to figure out what you can write about. But what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to write about your product. Everybody's product, just take a look at your infographics that you set up. Usually the proper set of infographics on your Amazon listing will have benefits. How many benefits do you have? What are the features? You could do some sort of research. You could talk about, let's say you're doing lavender soap. Well, you don't have to talk about soap, but you can talk about the properties of lavender. Research has shown, boom. And you can talk about the different ingredients. So it doesn't have to be product specific, yet within your press release, you can say that there's an Amazon listing that, if for more information, and they'll have a link directly back to the Amazon listing, which, is a great link because when you think of it, when it gets distributed, you're going to be getting the high quality links going back to your Amazon listing, which Amazon's asking for. They're looking for external traffic. Press releases offer that. And I'll give you one other thing. Google has come out with their new algorithm, and they state, we weight newsworthy content higher than anything else. If you're giving Google the ability to, weight your information the highest of anything, as long as it's a quality press release, you're going to get a lot of exposure. Not only that, the press release, because it's going out through this distribution, is going to have links within the press release going back to your product listing, which Amazon's going to like. So if you can have a link from the Washington Post, from Miami Herald, from Fox News, ABC, these are all going back. And you might have a press release is not just going through those types, those are news channels. You also have content distribution like Market Watch, Yahoo Finance, Reuters. They have a lot of strength and power when it comes to these authority links, all linking back. Now, here's the downfall. Entrepreneurs, Amazon sellers, we all have a little bit of ego, and we think that everybody wants our product. Well, I can tell you that if I am going to write a press release about this beard comb, and that beard comb is going to talk about the hidden properties of sandalwood, okay? All right, so that's newsworthy. And I publish it, and it goes out to Yahoo Finance. It goes to Fox News. You're not going to get a lot of traffic. We're doing it because we want to get the links. The traffic, I don't know about you, but would you go to Fox News on their website and search, a press release for sandalwood wood combs or beard combs? I'm not going to do it. So you're not going to get that type of traffic. Will it make you an authority? And this is this is what I was talking about, the first step. Before you do anything, I call this my pre-launch, part of my pre-launch strategy, is I want to become an authority. I build a brand, and this isn't for a lot of people when they're first launching on Amazon, they're testing their waters. They're going in with their toe, then their foot, and then they jump 2 feet. For me, I try to do my research and I go in 2 feet. I am having a perfect, like I'm going to go and research my audience. I'm going to do my proper competitive analysis. When I go into a product, I know that it should be successful. Okay, should. And, you know, and have I had failures? Absolutely. But at the same time, I've got the brand, I know the audience. Now I've got to be consistent, and I build usually a one-page website. I build some social media with the social banners, have a little bit of content, not a lot, just a little bit of content you can add as you go. And I launch a higher end press release talking about the company, talking about the product, the upcoming product launch. And you can easily talk about it, like there are guidelines, which I can provide as well, but there's guidelines with press release writing that you have to follow. I'll get into those guidelines in a second, but if you publish this higher end press release, this will allow you to get some form of authority. Usually a press release, like when we do our distribution reports, you'll see within 24 hours, I was on a webinar or a podcast with Kevin King, and he wanted me to talk about the press releases. So I did a press release for him 24 hours in advance of the podcast. Within that 24 hours, he was found on Google 279 times. His first page ended up with 170-ish results. His number one keyword was like number one position on Google 131 times in 24 hours. Now, a lot of the keyword phrases really suck. You know, they're 5 long, like they're nobody's going to type them. But like I tell you what I did, it was bully stick launch, Amazon bully stick launch, and keywords like that you could fight SEO and try to get you're not going to get it the same way and the same value, especially at the end of your title. If you geo-target a word like Fort Lauderdale, or usually it's communities under 350, if you are 50,000, if you notice that you're selling in a certain area, suburbs of LA or, you know, Albuquerque, they're under 350,000, you are going to have not 131, but you'll probably pretty much almost any keyword that you're targeting will be number 1 or on page 1, because the geo-targeting area, that's what I'll do. I'll target like 10 cities. Oh. And I'll just go out there, target 1, target 2, target 3. And all of a sudden now I'm there, I'm all over. And I showed, so I build, I can ramble about press releases all the time. They're so unsexy, but this is my strategy for 20 years for bricks and mortar as well as products, e-commerce. But what you want to do is have that really good, high quality press release. And that gives you the one thing that you need, and that is going to be the start of authority. And as you bring out more, maybe with the 2, 3, 5, 10 other press releases that you establish for your product launch, now you're becoming more, and you're becoming more of an authority. Nobody knows you during this product launch. You might launch like with some rebates, you might launch to get some sales volume, but at the end of the day, when the organic traffic comes through your PPC campaigns or whatever you're using, nobody knows who you are. And what do you do? Like, I go and I'll check out, oh, this looks like an interesting company. What are their reviews? Where are they on Google? If I go to Google and I see that the brand really sucks, or, you know, they've got some 1990s website and their social media, there hasn't been anything there for, 2 years, I have some concerns and I'll probably click off. So the formula, or authority equals trust. Trust equals sales. And it's that simple. If you've got the trust, you've got the sales. But if you don't have authority, the sales, it's much harder to find. So that's the first one. You want to establish at least 2 weeks, maybe a month beforehand, go to a higher end press release. So let me establish, there's 3 types of press releases. So the first type of press release is just an online press release. You're blasting it out there. These are probably, most of the people or listeners are probably used to this. They'll go out to news sites or search engine sites, and they're very inexpensive. They might be $20, they might be $35. I'm talking about the distribution. Then you have something called an SM, or a social media press release. Social media press release brings in social signals. So you'll go out and you'll send out to all the major news agencies, the newspapers, radio. You're going to be getting involved with bloggers, and you'll probably be having some influencers and some journalists. So it has a much broader scope, and you get better results, and you're going to be charged probably around $100 to $300. That's kind of the range. The one that I talk about at the beginning, and you have to remember, these press releases for national exposure, what's a TV commercial going to charge you?
What's up? A lot.
What's an ad, or what's a full page ad in, Forbes, or, to get you exposure on page one? They're going to cost a lot. It's not going to be $100. I tell you that. So then the final one, the best press release, is more of a traditional press release. Now, this is when you go to a company like Cision, and you'll see that they have their $200, $499, $799, or even higher press releases. Why? Well, the $799 one, and they range from around $799. I've heard people talk about $3,000. I've never seen it that high, but $750 to $1,500 is around the range for these ones. And these go out to all of those contributors, or all those distribution networks. They probably go out even further to maybe Reuters or Yahoo Finance, which are an additional 1,400, anywhere from 500 to 1,400 other sites, high content, high quality. They go to periodicals, they go to trade magazines, they go to a lot more types of outlets, and they go to bloggers, and they go to influencers, and they can target more niche markets. That's why it costs more. So it's not only, the social media one that you're getting, or sorry, the online one that you're getting for next to nothing, that's what it's worth. Nothing. You can do that all day long. You know what it's like? It's like having somebody that buys full price on Amazon. They're not part of a discount club, and they leave you a review. Then you've got the average person that takes advantage of discounts once in a while, and they leave a review. And then you've got the guy that buys only discounts, gets all these free rebates, belongs to 10 different rebate clubs or discount clubs. They leave a review, and it's nothing. You don't get any weight. And I don't know if your listeners know this, but buyers, like sellers, are given a score, and it's weighted completely different. For that discount person, it's worth zero. Gotcha. It's worth zero. It's only worth if you're trying to get sales momentum. It's the only thing it's worth.
Gotcha. Yep. No. That totally makes sense. It's definitely, that is something that we've mentioned before, and that we've seen ourselves with Ali and I's kind of own products. We used to utilize some giveaways and rebates when we realized it really doesn't work. And because we do our best to track as much as we can, all the analytics, especially kind of with Amazon. And then so kind of with that online PR, the kind of like the cheap, in regards to kind of you're paying kind of this cheap, this low price for whatever, all this distribution. And that's also reaching more kind of discounted, maybe lower grade type of.
Yeah, they're going out to junk links. So, tinytown.com, tinytownnewspaper.com, that have all these really zero readers. When you can get on to, let's say it's the Miami Herald, where they have, 100,000 or 150,000 people. And the potential traffic on a good press release, for us, usually the minimum amount of potential reach is 50 million. 50 million. And the high side is more like 150 million. Now, one thing I should also point out, because I don't want to get people confused. So think of, you can still get a press release, like the cheap one, the social media one, and the traditional one. But you're always going to be asked, do you want to boost it? Or, do you want to add a service? So what I mean, especially with the social media ones, so they'll have a network. Maybe they'll go out through PR Newswire. Maybe they'll go out through PR Web. Maybe like there's different distribution networks that you can put them through. But then they'll ask you, do you want to boost it through Reuters? Do you want to boost it through Market Watch or AP, Associated Press? Or and usually it's one or the other. They'll give you a package like USA Today and Yahoo Finance for $125 more. I take advantage of that. I don't do it all the time, but that extra $100 that you have to pay, or 125 or 300, usually means that you're getting a ton more exposure. So the ones you'll probably see is Reuters. That's a major one. Yahoo Finance is major. AP, major. USA Today. And these are all just other types of content distribution, which is on top of what you're going to already get. And that's why they charge more. I never, like, I always scratch my head going, okay, I get this. They're going to shoot me out to 400 different media outlets. Why do I have to pay more? Well, because now you're going to go out to further, so it's a wider breadth, and you're also going to be going out probably to better authority links.
Interesting.
So if you think Reuters
is this it's kind of a thought in my head, but maybe it's completely unrelated, that if you're, and I don't know if the correct terminology would be, these would be distribution networks would be the correct term for kind of these different, options, is that if these distribution networks find your press release to be, of more value than what they usually see, then they'll reach out and say, hey, would you like to boost these? Or is it just kind of a general, that's usually kind of
that's more of a marketing technique, you'll get extra boost. Yeah. Let's say that you have the normal distribution is 400. And if you write about, I don't know, pup rugs, okay? You could probably come up with an interesting news article. If you're coming out and you're talking about a spool of thread, I don't know, but let's just say that it's a really boring, drop dead subject, or it's a controversial subject. They could either be stopped before the editorial, or you'll be stopped by the editor of the press release company. So, like, let's say that you put something through our company, our editors go through it to make sure that it's good to go. Because when you put it up to the line of different distribution companies you're going to be using, if you press that button, maybe only 50 are going to pick it up. Maybe you're going to get rejected because you have a spelling mistake. Maybe you've broken the guidelines and you don't know the guidelines because you wrote it and you've never studied how to write a press release. So the typically most distribution companies will come back to you and say, you have a problem in your title. You have a grammatical error in your paragraph. You use, this type of tone in your certain things that you can't do. You can, like, just talking, you have to remember talking first person, talking third person. Well, you can say in a quote that, Norm Farrar Norm Farrar said, in my opinion, XYZ. You can't say I me, your. It's always got to be third person, where it's just like a news reporter. Like, you're not going to see Walter Cronkite, for those that are old enough to remember Walter Cronkite. You're not going to see him talking about the product in first person. So you've got to make sure and that's one of the big taboos, right?
Yep. Oh, of course. Yep. That's unfortunately that's an area myself that I use Grammarly all the time, because that's something that I've struggled with and I need to kind of improve upon is some of my own kind of copywriting and all the different, rules and things like that. So that's actually interesting that you could, so basically kind of with these distribution networks, once you kind of get to that point, so let's say you wrote kind of your own press release, send it out or get it distributed. The distribution's kind of to get it out to these different kind of platforms or these networks, but doesn't necessarily mean you will get,
correct
visibility on those. You just kind of, we're going to distribute it for you to.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
wow. So that could be, yeah.
But for the most part, most of the time you'll get some really good distribution. If you're talking about reverse mortgages, if you're talking about especially supplements, Amazon completely crippled the press release market because of bogus claims and bogus. What they would do is like, and we'll talk about what you can add to a press release, but they would have one of their images would be of a 10% off. You're not allowed to do that. So what ends up happening, it might sneak through, but when word gets back or you get complaints, now, it started off with one banning supplements, then trying to figure out a way, okay, what's another way of calling this? If it's not a supplement, what do we call it? A formula, what do we, so all of those are pretty much done, except for some backdoor distribution networks, which hit sort of second tier. They're not going to get on to CNN or they're not going to get on to the top level, but you'll get into some more of a secondary market, but they're very hard to find. And even at that, you can't 100% guarantee that that's going to happen. There are other ways of publishing that information. So just a quick example, you could put it onto your blog. You can put it onto add it into Google My Business, and Google My Business will pick it up as Google News. So, that's another option for stuff that really isn't kosher.
Yeah. And that's actually an interesting point. And that's actually, this is a random question. So I used to be kind of before Amazon, some of the kind of viewers know this, is I kind of provided marketing services for small businesses. And one of them was Google Business and optimizing their Google Business listing, ultimately, for Google Maps and just for general traffic, utilizing some of the post features and things like that and their reviews. Would you recommend maybe, because of obviously there's different types of people listening, there's, maybe someone just getting started, people who already exist, in e-commerce and kind of had, their brand established, but even if maybe one's brand is only online, do you see any benefit of using Google Business?
Oh yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Matter of fact, I've got a business with Google Business. So like I will help bring out, like, just like you said, what you were doing before. I do that with brands using Google My Business.
Interesting.
It's a great way. It's a great marketing tool.
So that is maybe that'll be a whole other discussion, but that is, it's so funny you mentioned that because that's something I thought about before, because I remember doing it and I'm like, oh, no, this is just for brick and mortar. This is not for anything online. That's just kind of my thought, but then interesting.
Well, Sumner, why don't you do this? Why don't you type in Lunch with Norm podcast, check out our Google My Business, leave me a review.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what, and I forgot to mention this, and part of the reason that we had Norm on today is because he has the kind of the weekly Lunch with Norm podcast. Allie and I were, graciously hosted on the podcast not too long ago that we also, we mentioned here in the group. And that's kind of, we wanted to definitely have Norm on the channel because obviously super knowledgeable. So yeah, I don't know how many links we're going to end up in the description or around this video, but I'm going to find that. I'm going to watch it myself and include a link. That is so funny that you bring that up. So yeah,
it's a great way for content, press release, and any form of content. and we could talk about this afterwards, but another really great trick. Content is so important on Google. Google loves knowledge and education. Very similar to Amazon, you start off at 100%, and the more mistakes you make, the lower down you go, right? So if you can get a really good content writer, and what do you have? My dog is giving me something. What do you got there? There we go. I guess my wife just worked out. Thanks, dog.
I'm not gonna ask what that is. I'm just gonna.
I don't know, but it's all sweaty. But anyway, content. You have to have really good content, 1,500 words or more. The more words that you can add, and after every quarter, remember to add more content. So if you're doing the ultimate guide to whatever, and you're adding that to your blog, make sure you can add 250 words. You could do it every month, but every quarter, and that triggers the algorithm or the spider to come back and index you again. Now write it, and what you'll do is you'll have a press release in mind, but you write it, you publish it, you go. And this might sound complicated, but stick with me. Write the article, go over to YouTube, get somebody to, I mean, you could do it yourself, just to do a voiceover with a couple of images, or just sitting there doing a talking head, and, you know, having the content that you're talking about maybe, you know, on the side. So the main point, here's the 5 reasons why, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then in that ultimate guide, you might have like just one YouTube video. It might be 30 seconds long. It might be a minute long. And that will, if you embed it into the article, and it might only take up one small piece of the article, but it'll get people to stay on longer. So now you've got the YouTube side being optimized. You've got the article, which if you've got keyword in the title, and if you've got it in your, basically in your first paragraph, and you link it back to your Amazon listing, you've got really good quality, quality content, plus the video to keep people there longer. All right, publish it. Wait a week. Now, if it's about, and I've used this example before, but if it's about elderly dogs and you sell bully sticks, okay, you could have like 10 reasons why elderly dogs, or problems with elderly dogs' health or something like that. And you could be talking about bully sticks and how it could help with digestion in elderly dogs and blah, 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 blah. You can actually put the keyword in there. That was just a quick made up title, but you can put something about bully sticks in the organic bully stick, green grass-fed bully sticks, 6-inch grass-fed bully sticks, something like that in the title. Now, in your press release, it can't be salesy. You can't show promotion, but you can say grass-fed organic bully sticks provide healthy nutritional snack for elderly dogs. And then you write your press release, 350 words, not a lot, maybe 500, but we usually write them around 350 words. Oh. Link it over to the content. Oh. Take the YouTube video and embed it. Like there's an area to embed a video. Embed the video. And now you've got a link going back from your press release, because you're going to be talking about this bully stick, and you can have that link going back to Amazon. And if you wish, I don't want to get too technical, but if you want a deep link, which just means that if you're looking at an Amazon listing on a mobile phone, it'll pull up the Amazon app. And you can get that like from Pixify Me or something like that, and you can use a deep link. Or I just use a raw URL, you know, the amazon.com/dp/asin. And that's what I put in there. It's a raw, nothing fancy. So that and your content are both going to be linking back to your Amazon. Well, your press release is linking back to the content. Now you've got a full circle. So Amazon's going to get all those authority links from your press release. Google's going to love your press release because it weights it higher. Your content is going to be weighted. And the next step to this is bringing in influencers and getting them to syndicate and go through their networks and write about the products and refer back to that blog article.
Gotcha.
So now you've got the influencers, nano or micro influencers, blasting it out to all of their followers, linking back to the content, which the press release is linked to, and it's a perfect world.
Interesting. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that's totally makes sense in my mind. I know for some people, some are a little bit more adept and have already kind of gone the route or started with Google SEO and all of that, but that is totally makes sense in my mind. Yeah. I'm like literally thinking through right now for our own products. I'm like, wait, how could we kind of restructure, maybe
and don't forget to repurpose it, because both, oh my gosh, I did a course with Shane Oglow for Amazing on press releases. And what we were talking about is, okay, you got your press release, you've got the content, but after that, there's hundreds of ways to repurpose it. You can take your press release, repurpose it on Facebook and whatever you want. You can take the content. You can take every single influencer and just share the content that they have on your social media network. It's just crazy what you can do with the content.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And it is, I mean, we know, because we do a little bit of just more kind of social media, even obviously for our own kind of personal brands, but then also for our more product-based brands, we do, Instagram, TikTok, some YouTube and things like that. However, I think we could definitely do a little bit better job of structuring it, especially for maybe more, to ultimately kind of like maximize, almost like double dipping in a way, like getting the most out of it. That is very, very interesting. And this is all, so this kind of this, at least this brief, and I know there's obviously get even more complicated, more, kind of robust, but this specific strategy kind of focused on, it all started from like one really well-written kind of blog article that you create. And then you kind of create the YouTube video. Then you had the press release, which obviously.
You've got that, so that's your first one. So you got the authority. Can you see how it can grow? The authority, because for example, I have a company called the Chat Agency with Paul Barron, who's a chatbot guru. And anyways, he was able to do something like this, and he got so much exposure. Like just doing this, getting micro influencers to write content and then repurposing all the content. And it was crazy what he could, what ended up happening. But I want you to keep a couple things separate. So you've got that launch, which now you've got even if you don't do it, you've got like just a press release and don't do the content. That might be too confusing. Okay. But let's say it's just that really good press release. Now, you still link it back to your Amazon page. During the launch strategy, we typically do 4 press releases or 8 press releases over a 2-week period. And whatever keywords that we're trying to target within our search, find, buy campaigns, or if we're running rebates, our rebates, like I know there's a lot of platforms out there that, Amazon, they have the footprint, and it's no good. But if you have, like if you were working with a company that provides more of a concierge service, or if you're setting up your mini chat flows where it's not like what you're doing is you're bringing in not a network, not a rebate network, but you're running ads, you're finding real people who want to buy your pet product because they're in the pet niche and they have a small dog that wants bully sticks for small dogs. They're willing to take it either at 100% rebate, okay, and you can give them their Amazon card or Visa card or whatever they want in payment. It's not against TOS. It is against TOS. It is against, like, this is risk evaluation. Yes. There's nobody that I know of that's been suspended doing this, but you only have certain amount of things that can drive traffic to your website, to your Amazon listing. I'm willing to take that chance. I'm willing to get these people to come over that I know are not discount shoppers, either give them the opportunity, and the way that it's set up is the opportunity is at 30%, or buy one, get one free. If they don't take us on that, we send them back and ask them to be product testers, and they can have the opportunity to get one of our products. And they have to go through, they just don't click on, because Amazon can tell whether, if you're buying something very quickly, they know it's a rebate. Nobody just goes, boom, So we there's a process to do that, but you target keywords that are in your press release. Now, what happens when you do that, and that is either through search, find, buy, or just driving people to an Amazon website, or Amazon, driving Facebook traffic or Pinterest traffic over to a landing page, getting them to answer some questions, and then driving them over. Great, no problems. At the end of the day, you're going to be able to get sales velocity. And this is a simple formula too. The amount of sales volume you get times the amount of traffic equals first page. Mm-hmm. And so if you don't have that during a launch, like let's say your PPC is awesome and you get that, great. You've got a 2-week honeymoon period to drive traffic. This is one way to do it. I find it works extremely well. I used to do it strictly with giveaways. You can still do that 100% legally. Above board, you can give a 70%, 80%, 90% coupon. Go ahead and do it, but you're not going to get verified reviews. If you're trying to get verified reviews, this is the way to do it. And you tie that into a press release. Now, what does this do? This allows you to stay, it allows you to stick. What I found, and we've tested this out with one of my clients who, was the guinea pig. We sent out rebates with the exact same product under a different ASIN. Okay, rebates with a press release targeting certain keywords. Press release targeting certain keywords, and then rebates targeting certain keywords. So we did it all 3 different scenarios. Each time we did it, it always worked out that the stickiness of your keyword from your original campaign were from press releases. So I don't know why. And the other thing I can add to that which is a little bit off topic. So we've managed tons of rebates for people. I don't know how many, but tons. And 99 times out of 100, the reason why a launch fails, and you see it in all these groups, rebates don't work, search, find, buy doesn't work, this sucks, that sucks. Well, it's not because that sucks, it's because your technique sucks. You don't understand it. And let's say that first rule is that if you're doing this and it says, give out 151 units, and I'm saying that, like, when I see 100, I divide it and I get 30%. I take 30, so out of 100, I'll take 30 giveaways. The other is going to come organically, usually. All right. So if the number says 30, don't give out 25 or 10. We do this all the time where okay, you're 150 units. You have to give away 150. I really don't have that in the budget. Don't do it. Don't do your launch. If you're planning on rebates to do it, you're not going to get those results. You need to do 151 units or something close to it. If it's half of that. And then number 2 is that if you're looking at, I'm always tracking, I use Helium 10 to their keyword track. And I love this for a couple of reasons. One, you can add notes. If you change anything, if you've changed your PPC, if you change a title, if you've changed anything within your listing, you can add the date and you can add it to notes. And so you can go back and quickly refer to it, which is nice. The other thing is just going through their tracking, and you can see if there's a dip. So if you're seeing that, okay, there's a rise, there's a plateau during the campaign, and then there's a dip, like it drops very quickly afterwards. First of all, probably that keyword wasn't supported. Okay. So if you see it drop right off after it, okay, so you have to explore that. Why? Maybe you have to play around with the listing. Or if you start to see it just kind of drop off, that just means you just got to support it with a couple more rebates or a press release. And if you do that, you're going to see this, like it's going to stay steady. People think that once they finish, a lot of people think that once they finish a campaign, oh, I spent $5,000 and, I'm good. Amazon's going to promote me. No, they're not. You've got 10 competitors that are doing the exact same thing on your butt. And you have a choice of either sticking to that and just monitoring and taking care, doing your maintenance. And it pays off so well. And the other thing that people have an issue with is the total cost of a launch. If it costs you $10,000 to do, let's say your press releases at the end of the day might cost you in total $1,500. Okay, it's not that bad. I'm talking about multiple press releases. Yeah. And then you've got all these rebates. If you've got $10,000 worth of rebates, now you have your rebate costs. So let's keep your rebate costs separate. Okay, so you've got, some people are paying nothing, some people are paying $3, some people are paying $20 per rebate. Those are probably the better rebates with more of a concierge type, making sure that they're better quality. Anyways, if you've got a $7,000 or $10,000 Amazon rebate, okay, you've spent that much on your units that are being sold. Every single time, bar none, people come back and say, "Oh, I just can't afford another $10,000." Check out your Amazon payout. You got $7,000 to $7,500 back. Mm-hmm. Amazon paid you back $7,500, so you're really only out $2,500 or $3,000. Now, is that more palatable? Oh yeah. So and what do you get from that? Like I can show you that we gave away 150 products for this knife I did. Okay, so put out a knife. It was 150 units. At the end of the campaign, over I think it was a 6-week period, we sold $66,000 worth of knives. We gave away 150.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. I think it's kind of this human error, and I noticed myself as well. But kind of focusing on and I've had clients and we're kind of dissolving a lot of the clients that we've had, just focusing on our own brand, but just kind of one-off helping and testing different theories and things like that. And you're just so focused on certain metrics. And it's like, why are you ultimately focused on this metric? Like, oh, that's too expensive. Why is that too expensive? What do you mean that's too expensive? And just kind of exploring that and realizing, oh, you might not be looking at the full picture. So I 100% understand that. And I'm guilty of that as well. This completely makes sense in my mind. And just kind of briefly, maybe kind of like recap or summarize at least this little section here is maybe step one would be, this is assuming you identify your product opportunity, it's manufactured, everything, you're set on that, and you're kind of preparing to launch. You will first kind of identify those relevant, maybe relatively high volume keywords that you want to make sure that you're, ranking for. And then with those specific keywords, you'll use, maybe some rebates, like a search, find, buy, or something like that. A mix of that with press release, and then maybe some Amazon PPC, and using those methods for those specific keywords, targeting those right at the beginning. And then also using a tool, maybe like Helium 10, to track those specific keywords and see kind of over time, not just at the beginning of the launch, but then also later, how you are ranking for those keywords over time. And if you see a dip, then that means, a little bit more rebates, a little bit, maybe another press release to get back up, and just kind of that. Would that be?
That's a pretty good. Now when you do the original launch, and it depends on the competitiveness. Like if you're doing supplements, you might run. I have written 20 press releases. One a day went out. But for most of the products that we launch, we do 4. And we'll do a distribution on a Tuesday, Thursday, Tuesday, Thursday. Those are the best days to publish your press releases. Wednesday's the worst, or Monday's really a garbage day. Friday, nobody's gonna, it's just a garbage day. Wednesday is, what is it called? Hump Wednesday. So Tuesday, Thursday are the best days to distribute. Now you want to make sure that with those keywords that you find, and I break them into keyword silos. So I find a primary keyword like, then again, this is your research that you're doing in Helium 10 is, okay, so I'll search by search volume. I'll find out what my primary keywords are. And it might be organic, or your primary keyword would be bully stick. It's 200,000 search volume. So I can't go after that keyword. So I'm going to go down to the next group, which might be organic bully stick or grass-fed bully stick or 6-inch bully stick. I'll break those into individual silos, columns on a spreadsheet. I'll take those two keywords, and you'll see this in any other app that you have for this type of tool for research. But in Helium 10, you hit advanced search. You put the two words into, what is it called?
Magnet?
No, the two words, this is all within Cebro. So in Cebro, you would take the two words, go into the advanced filter and put it under the, what's it called? Keyword must have or keyword match. And you separate the one keyword by a comma. So let's say it's grass-fed, comma, bully stick. Hit it, and then you're going to see it populate with a whole list. Search volume top, and you'll see all the, the keywords. I exported into a folder. I try to get 2 or 3 of those, and then I'll take those keywords. I will not use the top keyword like organic bully stick. I'll start to look at some of the long tail keywords like 6-inch organic, grass-fed, natural organic, and then I'll start to target those. And the reason why I'm doing that is that grass-fed bully sticks might require 500 giveaways. So in my math, I need to give away at least 125. If I go and I take these longer tail keywords that have grass-fed bully stick in them, 6-inch grass-fed, jumbo grass-fed, whatever grass-fed, you're probably going to see that you only have to give away 8 or 16. And by putting 4 or 5 of those keywords together within your press release or into rebates, it'll naturally bring up grass-fed bully stick on its own over time. So it's a great way to save an absolute ton of money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That totally makes sense. And that's something we've talked about here kind of on this channel, just kind of the power of long tail keywords, generally, longer tail keywords, because it's also interesting when you kind of break down and kind of analyze each individual keyword in terms of how much total kind of resources will need to be put toward this keyword. And then what is the ultimate result, maybe ultimately in terms of end profit from that keyword over the long term. And sometimes obviously it's difficult to track. You don't know until you actually, do it and start driving traffic to that keyword and track rank and everything. But yeah, a lot of these that's one thing we talk about PPC a lot in this channel, and that's a huge part of our Amazon PPC strategy is just targeting literally hundreds of long tail, meaning, long tail just meaning longer keywords, 4+ word long phrases that are very specific and much less competitive. And yeah, a lot of these are much, much easier to rank for. And that's exactly kind of how we structure, at least our PPC, is at first we'll start targeting those long tail, then move up to some more mid tail, and just kind of work our way up like a snowball and get those quick, easy wins, usually lower cost per click, higher conversion rate, which can also translate, send good signals to your listing and kind of work up from there. So that overall strategy, and I could easily see this with press release and some of these rebates playing right in. I mean, that makes sense. So that's interesting because you'll have kind of with those rebates, kind of, ultimately someone going onto Amazon, maybe typing in very specific keywords, maybe browsing, a couple options and imitating a normal, sort of Amazon customer and then purchasing. So kind of on the Amazon side, and then you have the press releases kind of on maybe the Google side. If that's the way I'm kind of thinking about
exactly it. But not only do you have that, and I'll give you an example for bully sticks. So I did a search term that we've been working on since 2016. So the first slot on Google. So if somebody comes from Amazon and says, "Who is this brand?" Right? Boom. Okay. First slot was from Chewy. I don't know why, but Chewy was the first one. The second was Amazon.com. Third one was Amazon.ca. Then it got into a press release that I had written back in 2016. It was still there. And so there was another, I'm not sure if it was Facebook, but something was there. Then each one of the 4 images that were shown were my product, each one of them. And then the remaining was all of my like either press release, blog articles, influencers who written content about that blog, that product. And I clicked page 2, every single spot except for one spot. So imagine if you were an Amazon seller, somebody was looking for your product, and you filled up the first 2 pages of Google. That's what you can do with this.
Absolutely, 100%. That's why I was so excited to talk to you, because that's something for our own personal goals is what we really want to kind of nail down and get much better in is overall Google SEO, which I think a lot of Amazon sellers, and again, it depends on where they're coming from or what information they're consuming, but I definitely think that there is a lack in the kind of Amazon FBA community with Google, which is crazy because Google's been around for so long. It will continue to be around for a long time. At least that's what it seems to be. And a huge amount of traffic to Amazon listings comes from Google. Forget the exact statistic, but a large percentage of product-based searches, period, begin on Google, where I think the majority is Amazon, at least for the US market, but huge percentage is Google. And I think a lot of people also kind of forget about that. So it's really, really interesting to hear. And the benefit of I think a lot of people also don't realize the amount of effort that you put in and the resources and everything, and how long, or what's the longevity of that. And it sounds like with press release, it can be for, potentially several years.
Yeah, it could be, you can see them from 2016. So it depends on the quality, it depends on the keyword, depends on the relevancy. There's lots of things that tie together, but it is quite comical when you see your press release under the blog article or vice versa that you've written to go along with it. So now you get the double impact. And if you want the trifecta, if you've got the Amazon, you've just taken over the Amazon listing for that. And I'm sure you've seen it. So you go to Grass-Fed Bully Stick and, it's not the competition, it's your listing that is up there underneath the press release, with the press release underneath it, followed by content, followed by an image, video, whatever it is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely dominating. I think that's the difference between, and I know that's something that you discuss a lot, but building a brand versus kind of, selling a product on Amazon, or utilizing one sales channel. So I know for some people it seems a little foreign, like what do you mean? Or what do you, there's always a good place to start. I think Amazon is a great platform to begin, but I've talked about this before, and it's a sales channel. So you ultimately want to kind of diversify multiple sales channels and also diversify, your content to where you have all these backlinks, going to your Amazon listing. Wow. I'm like I said at the beginning, this is something that's been a personal kind of topic that I've wanted to explore. So my mind is racing and how I can specifically apply this. What would be maybe for someone who, because a lot of people watching this, I think are kind of newer, starting out, and they may feel a little bit overwhelmed. What would your recommendation be for someone who's like, man, I'm totally kind of sold on this concept, with press releases and all this kind of Google keyword optimization? What would the best, maybe, because there's a difference between, like the perfect information and then the best information for that person. Almost like when you have the perfect information, it can be too confusing, too overwhelming, and someone ends up not taking any action and getting started. What would be maybe some good, basic, simple ways for someone to get started with kind of what we discussed here?
Well, first of all, find a good press release writer. Unless you're experienced in this, and you know how to put together a good blog article, you have to figure out how to put together a good press release. And one thing I should mention, I want to go over a very quick 2-second anatomy of the press release. So you have a title. Your keywords should be at the front of your title. Then you say provides whatever, and you could have another keyword at the end, but it's usually engagement, right? You're trying to get engagement, but it's got to look newsworthy. You don't ever put promotional language in. You don't usually put your brand name in, because you really do have 17 or 70 characters before it gets truncated, right? So you want to make sure that it looks good. You don't need, like, no ego. You don't need your brand in. Nobody cares. They'll see it in the meta description. They'll see it when they read the press release. Then the next step is a 160 character, just a summary. So the reason for this is journalists, bloggers, like the influencers, are not going to read your press release. They're going to see it whip by in their Twitter feed, and they're going to say, "Oh, yeah, this is interesting. I'll contact them." You know, so now they get the interest, then they'll publish. So that's 160 characters, and it's just really a summary of what, you know, it's all about. The next is your body of your press release. You want to have the keyword that's in the title in the first paragraph. Your second paragraph, or the line after your first paragraph, is usually a direct link. So it's the link, either the deep link or the link going back to your product listing or your product store, wherever you want it to go back. Then throughout, you can have a quote. It's always good to have a quote. And that's where you can talk first person about, you know, how you put together this, and, you know, this is what you're all about, and this is what you expect, and blah, 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 blah. And you can also say, and we're very excited about our discount that's being offered for the next 2 weeks on Amazon. You can't do that in the body except for in a quote. It's kind of a workaround. So the other part to this, and this is really funny, I think you'll get a kick out of this, because you're asked for contact information. A lot of times people will send us contact or the press release with no contact information. Well, how the heck are people going to get a hold of you if they want to, you know, ask you a question and be, "Oh, I don't want my name there"? Make it up. Like, just, you know, put your contact information in there. You don't have to put in your address. If you do, and, you know, like, if you put in, let's say that you do have an office at XYZ in, you know, street. Well, how good is that for your Google Maps? You know, it's going to be picked up. It's a relevant article connecting that article to the maps, right? So Google will notice that. They also, you can add your website, you can add an email, you can add 4 or 5 images. Just don't make them promotional. The other thing is that if you are adding a website, do not have it on your homepage. If the banner says, "Okay, there's your product," and 5 seconds later, 10% off, Google could ban your domain. And so we tell people specifically that don't put any promotional stuff in that slider. This press release, if it goes out and it goes to Google News, you could get banned because you're showing promotional information in a news item.
And where should it link to? Like, it would be that corresponding kind of that blog article that kind of corresponds?
No, you could drive right back. Or you could go to the blog article, as long as there's not a pop-up on your blog that, you know, all of a sudden says, "Hey, 10% off." Yeah. But as long as your homepage, you know, is not going to be talking about discounts and all that, then you're safe. The next step to this, and so you can have your logo, you can have your product information. You could put, they'll ask for all your social media. You can add your YouTube channel, but most will allow you to embed a video. So you can embed that video that I was talking about for the content that you made on YouTube, or, you know, you can make up a very simple article or a video talking about whatever the topic is on your press release. And then the final thing is you can add additional information. It could be frequently asked questions. It could be resource, white papers, or research and white papers. Any type of, you know, if you're talking about, you've just brought out a new alcoholic beverage and you have all these recipes, and you can attach that. Or you can have the link to the YouTube video that shows you how to mix. So that's the anatomy of a press release. And a lot of the times it's not done properly.
I could easily see how that would be the case. And that's what's interesting. So it's kind of like, to keep it simple, you can absolutely have success with a press release without having kind of those additional, you don't have, any content on YouTube, you don't have your blog set up, but ideally it would be good to kind of have some content first on your social channels, YouTube, having a blog site, attached with your, there with your website, before. That would be just kind of to maximize would be ideal. But also if someone's just kind of like, but maybe that would be the first step then, would be create some content, create some valuable content, and then move towards.
That's what I was saying at the beginning. Like you plan this out, because you have to build that authority. And if you can do the brand play, which is website, very simple one pager, or you might want to have like the homepage, which has your product on it, just one product. And you might have, because you have no testimonials, there's nothing you can put there, but you could have a blog. And the blog could consist of 1 to 4 different blog articles that can already be published. So when people do come, you can either drive them to the blog, or they'll just click on blog and see the information, and it's valid. And that's the same with social media. You can take those blog articles, repurpose them on all your social media channels, and that'll show that you've got something going. So I mean, this isn't about social media, but it is. Because, if you just do something simple, put a couple motivational quotes up, or some quotes, put up maybe a survey, have it consistent with your brand, have your website consistent with your brand. So I make templates for my social media that are, very similar to my website. It's orange and black. That's how I brand. Every color, everything, it's all the same font. It's very consistent.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. So kind of step one, create some valuable content. Maybe it doesn't have to be as difficult as a lot of people think, even with like the website, thinking, I need to build this robust, giant website. It could be potentially one page, even some like, I don't know how you feel about like Instagram, some memes, some motivational quotes, things like that, which can perform well. And I do know as well, something that I'll add that I found, and I'm curious, you might have insight on this as well. This was recently that we kind of started doing this, but we started getting just some videos from our manufacturing process, and we started putting them on our Pinterest and kind of our video shorts, and then also TikTok. And we've noticed, well, for one particular, it was on TikTok, we have over, I think it was like 2.5 million views on this.
Wow.
It was basically the specific video though, we just asked our supplier, hey, could you run over our product to show how durable it is? Just kind of as like a demonstration, because we would do it. We're abroad, people know that. So it's a little bit tougher with us. So that's why we kind of asked our supplier. And yeah, it was like, in the total time it took us to create that specific video was like less than 15 minutes to like ask the supplier, they send it, we post it, threw up some hashtags. It was even a little bit like not super well done, kind of grainy, but it went really well on TikTok. And I forget how it's performing on Pinterest, because we recently started using the Pinterest kind of video shorts. But yeah, we've realized even with our own products, like, oh my gosh, it doesn't necessarily, at some point you really want to, and maybe that's even first is your brand identity, even kind of the aesthetic side with your typography and your colors and things like that. I would say, of course, that is important, but I think a good takeaway that you've clearly kind of mentioned is that it doesn't have to be as difficult to get started than I think a lot of people make it out to be.
No, it's not. And you can hire people to do it. It doesn't have to be perfect. A brand is always evolving, and your product is always evolving. You take those negative or positive comments and you always evolve your product. I do have to tell you a funny story about what you were just talking about. So we did something very similar for one of our clients who is a skateboard manufacturer. So he gets it done over in China. And what we showed was the inspection. And it was hilarious because there were these, the inspectors went out there, but they had never ridden a skateboard before. So we had video of them trying to get on, turn right, turn left, just go straight. That's like every skateboard, right? We were doing this. And then it had to pass a weight test. So there was like, it almost looked like bags of flour with this Chinese guy that was sitting on top of the bags of flour, and they were pushing them. So it would show that it was holding up the, whatever was 350-pound weight. So it was pretty funny.
That is wonderful. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I can totally see that. And that's so, I mean, it's funny because that's part of your process as well. And like, yeah, kind of share, yeah, Gary, Vaynerchuk talks about this, but kind of documenting the process and kind of as you're creating, even, and I'm really big on TikTok. That's why I kind of mention it. And it's my favorite. I spend too much time on TikTok, probably even personally, but a lot of people will find it so interesting, kind of like that, how is it made type of,
Yeah.
content, and even product development. Like in this, you start building your brand even before you maybe have a product, even for those who are just getting started for the first time, where you can literally use these social channels and say, hey, what, design do you guys like? What do you like or dislike about it? And I know one guy, it's not a, physical product, but he designed his whole video game using TikTok. He showed kind of a little demo video and it was like, what do you guys like and dislike about it? And then people can actually comment on TikTok and you can make a video replying to that comment. So you would always find something like kind of a negative comment, like, oh, I think, basically the top liked or kind of upvoted, comment about room for improvement. He would make that improvement, make a video about the improvement. All right, what's next? And they kept doing it and literally ironically used it to build his product. And then he has his audience there to consume and I know that could be a whole other discussion too. Like we could go, in so many directions, but I understand. And I hope, on my end as well, kind of stressing the importance of that it can, it's obviously important to build your external, that your brand exists in multiple platforms, multiple touch points with consumers. And then also it can even be fun too. It doesn't have to be just, tedious and boring and maybe honestly it shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, you can make it fun. Just like watching, the inspector being pushed on the bags of flour. Or sand or whatever it was.
It would have been great if they found just like they found their biggest guy. They're like, hey, come over here. Like we need you for this to test this. Oh man, that's wonderful. Man, I think we're about at our time. I could probably check, but geez, this has been super informative. Like I said, helpful for me. And I'm sure it's been helpful for others. If you guys do like the video, be sure to let us know, give us a thumbs up. If you have any questions, let us know in the comments. Although I don't know how much I'm going to be able to help. So Norm, what's the best way for people who, obviously you have this wealth of information and knowledge, how can people reach out to you, learn more about you and kind of what you do?
Okay, well, you can, we have a podcast called Lunch with Norm, and that's Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, Eastern Standard Time. We stream live. Probably the best way to contact me directly is either on Facebook or just at norm@amz.club. Now, if you contact me on Facebook, we do answer, or I answer everything. I'm not the quickest. I'll just say that. I'm an old guy. I'm not the quickest. But, give me a few days and I usually respond back to everybody.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Awesome. Sounds great. Yeah. Be sure to check out the Lunch with Norm podcast, both with the Google business and then also with Ali and I kind of talking about traveling the world and some things like that. But I'll have links to kind of all of Norm. I know you mentioned there's going to be that kind of that guide. I think it was like 108,
Yeah. Yeah. I can also provide the guidelines that are important that you follow. So, and that's probably, if anybody's interested in just handing over that part of it, like you provide the information, you provide your bullets and, have a done for you service, they can contact my company, PR Reach. So there's 2 R's in there. And if you want to talk to somebody directly, my partner over there is Shane Oglow, Shane, SHANE, at prreach.com, and they could walk the person through the process. And what I could do too, I'll provide a link for a discount code for everybody. So I'm not sure what it's going to be yet, but I'll come up with something.
Awesome. Sounds great. We'll have a nice full kind of description, but that's amazing. So you guys can find this in the description section, in the comment section of this video. Norm, I'll make sure I network with you and we'll get all those right there. And yeah, like I said, if you have questions, you know where to find Norm. So wow, this has been wonderful. I know we could go literally all day and probably for a few days, just kind of dissecting all of your experience and kind of knowledge, but this has been really wonderful. And we definitely hope to have you on in the future.
That'd be fantastic. I'd love to come back.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, until next time, thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope you found it valuable and we'll see you in the next video.
See you later.